Chapter 241, Golden Dragon Dreadclaw. Though he had fused with the soul bone, if asked whether he could sense any obvious changes, the answer would be a flat no. His right arm was unremarkable, not a glimpse of the previous fusion in sight. This. Xu Shaoan blurted out, was that soul bone a counterfeit? Gu Yue shook her head. No way. Even if this is the spirit ascension platform, creating such a powerful 100-year dust gold Dreadclaw bear requires a real soul bone. It's like how ordinary soul beasts need spirit energy to be made. There's no way it's fake. But absent-mindedly, Tang Wuling transformed his hand into a golden dragon claw. The limb first showered in a burst of light. As his claw sprang into view, his arm swelled with power. However, neither that nor his scales seemed any different. They still sported a sparkling gold. How disappointing. Maybe your bloodline overwhelms the soul bone's power? Gu Yue purposed helplessly. Well, there's bound to be a difference. There's no way nothing changed. A bitter smile crawled its way over Tang Wuling's lips. Only the heavens know. As he spoke, he waved his claw, urging soul power into it. For a split second, he felt a peculiar sensation. His claw trembled and a dark gold light enveloped his fingertips. Although it lasted just a hairbreadth of an instant, he realized what it was. Whoa, you two, move away from me. Tang Wuling retreated a few steps back before pouring soul power into his claw. At his call, his scales obeyed, twinkling like the countless stars in the sky. The tips of his fingers regained their dark gold luminescence. Though faint, their existence was undeniable. A strange feeling welled within him. His heart rate skyrocketed, his blood a team of horses galloping through his veins. Its destination, his right hand. Such a sensation was overwhelming, immense, and he brandished his claw out of reflex. 5 streaks of dark gold light zipped through the air. All of a sudden, a third of his soul power dissipated. His blood was practically boiling over now. This time, what transpired was crystal clear. Gu Yue and Xu Shaoan did not miss how the dark gold claws, which were a whopping meter long, materialized in thin air after a single slash. They only took form for a moment, though. I knew it couldn't have been worthless. How do you feel? Gu Yue asked, her words nearly tripping over each other from their rush. Shock hit Tang Wuling like a lightning bolt as he examined his hand. Eyes widened and lips parted slightly. It felt like soul power leapt out of my body. Like it extends the range of my claw attacks, but it consumes a lot of soul power. I'm already down by a third. It's even more demanding than using my golden dragon claw regularly. Amidst their discussion, a growl reverberated in the air as a jade figure peeked out from the thicket. It was a slender 4-meter-tall lizard-like beast. If not for its glowing body, it would have been camouflaged. The lizard's skull was enormous, and its mouth flaunted rows of sharp, jagged teeth. A sawtooth-like horn sat atop its head. Crawling dragons were a species of land dragon with a feeble amount draconic blood running through their veins. They had violent temperaments, coupled with powerful streamlined bodies. These beasts took advantage of the terrain to ambush prey. Compared to a dust gold dreadclaw bear, a crawling dragon was nothing much. Still, it was on the same level as a blazing demon lion. Wuling, this is a perfect chance for you to test it out, Gu Yue said. Light coalesced in Xu Shaoan's hands, forming her staff. She raised it up high and chanted, the stars in the heavens that shine forever tranquil, grant me strength. My star wheel. It was as if a meteor shower took place, their tails trailing along the horizon, each ending in a glimmer of stardust. Unwittingly, time had flew by and it was already night. When the crawling dragon sensed the reaper's scythe at its neck, it was already too late. It was impaled by starlight, its body bound by shackles made of light. No matter how hard it tried, it couldn't move an inch. This was Xu Shaoan's first variant soul skill, star wheel shackles. Completely in sync, Tang Wuling shot forward like a rocket, while soul power surged within his body. He paid no heed, cramming it all into his claw. Then he stopped just a meter short of the crawling dragon and brandished his claw. Under the tyrannical might of Tang Wuling's draconic aura, the crawling dragon nearly released its bladder. A split second later, a flash of 5 dark gold lights flickered in the air. It did not stir the wind at all. In fact, the 5 points of radiance sliced through the beast like a knife through butter. Before one could blink, the crawling dragon scattered into a mass of spirit energy. Xu Shaoan gaped at the sight. Such terrifying power. It's just. Tang Wuling was of the same sentiment. The product of the fusion was definitely superior to his golden dragon claw. Although the latter was formidable, it had suffered from a lack of range. In order for it to be effective, he needed to fight in close quarters. That was all behind him after fusing with the soul bone. Not only did his attack range increase, his power was not sacrificed. Yes, these were dark gold blades, but under careful inspection, he noticed that they were covered in small scales. A mutation had occurred. There was no way one could compare the present form with the original. What made Tang Wuling overjoyed, however, was that he discovered the attack distance was related to the amount of soul power consumed. Pouring in 2/3 of his capacity equated to an increase of 1.5 meters to his range of attack. The best part was, the golden dragon dreadclaw would grow in might along with his own cultivation. Perhaps in the future, its attacks would stretch as far as the dust gold dreadclaw bears. Indeed, Tang Wuling had decided to name the product of the fusion the golden dragon dreadclaw. Even so, its power came at a steep cost. He could only use it 2 or 3 times per battle before running out of soul power, and that wasn't even at its full strength. Congratulations, your attack range has increased. Gu Yue smiled as she approached him. Yet, a smile was absent from Tang Wuling's lips. Let's go. We should hurry and check on Xi. Slapping the buttons on the back of their hands at the same time, the trio disappeared in a flash of light. Not long after their departure, though, a pair of jade green eyes burst open deep in the forest, a terrifying aura swallowing the surrounding area whole. After exiting the metal box and clearing his head, Tang Wuling darted out of the room. Upon seeing Xi, huddled in a blanket and twitching like mad, Tang Wuling let out a breath of relief. Xi was in bad shape. There was no doubt about it. His body couldn't stop trembling, his pale face soaked with sweat. Wu Zhangkong sat beside him. He circulated soul power into his body with a mysterious heaven method to stabilize his condition. As long as he had regained consciousness, everything would be fine. After many adventures in the spirit ascension platform, they knew the disharmony in his body disappear momentarily. Tang Wuling nudged close to Xi with a smile. It's good that you're all right. I was worried you wouldn't be able to handle it. Xi rolled his eyes. How am I all right? Don't you see me shaking? So, did you kill it? Tang Wuling nodded. Yeah, I avenged you. Xi managed a few laughs. That's good then. We've finally gotten rid of that blasted thing. Now I won't be haunted by it anymore. You weren't the one who killed it. Xu Shaoan interjected as she and Gu Yue arrived. Xi said, you're always picking a fight with me. Can't you be nice to me for even a moment after seeing how much I'm suffering? Xu Shaoan giggled. If we let you be prideful now, then who knows how cocky you're going to act in the future. Xi said, so you guys didn't cross over and take a look? To that, Tang Wuling shook his head. We were afraid something happened to you so we rushed out. Oh right, we got a dust gold dreadclaw bear's right hand soul bone. He continued to recount the events that transpired. Chapter 242, passing the exam. Wu Zhangkong hadn't watched it happen despite having been shown on the screen, since he was preoccupied with Xi's condition. Xi's jaw dropped. That's possible. A soul bone. You got a soul bone. Wuling, you can pay me back with it. Gu Yue knitted her brows. Now you're trying to snatch it away? Xi snorted. Is it no good? All right, fine. Then you can just forge my battle armor for me instead. Wuling. Tang Wuling smiled wryly. All right. Initially taken aback by Xi, Gu Yue began smiling a moment later. As comrades, they were going to help each other make their battle armors anyway. They wouldn't have chosen different professions otherwise. Wu Zhangkong watched over them firmly. You've all passed your final exam. With the exam now over, the first semester of the 4th grade was concluded. Their journey, however, was only just beginning, as the next chapter of their story would soon lead them to the haven of their dreams. In a room pervaded by and heavy with the element of darkness, a purple halo lit up, driving back some of the oppressive atmosphere. My lord, a deep voice said deferentially, its owner kneeling. In spite of his human appearance, he had an aura as frightening as the abyss. Amen. A petite figure emerged, a sight for sore eyes in the midst of the heavy gloom. She had silver hair which flowed down to the floor, and her 2 violet eyes seemed to pierce the darkness. What's the progress? A delicate voice rang, as if from a young girl. We have already completely integrated ourselves and collected information from all parties. Please take a look, the black figure said softly. Amen. In a blinding flash, a silver claw gripped the figure's head. Intense shudders ran through his body for an instant before gradually easing down to a slight quiver. On a high-speed train headed for Shrek City from East City, in the most ordinary of second-class seats, the 4 students of Class 0 were bursting with excitement. This was their first trip to such a distant place. On top of that, this journey was bound to forever change their fates. The 2 girls sat on one side while Tang Wuling, Shishi, and Wu Zhangkong sat on the other, separated by the center aisle. Shishi and Xu Shaoan chirped noisily from time to time while Bu Yue looked out the window quietly. Tang Wuling's vision was also directed outside, but his eyes were unfocused. He had many things to ponder. Wu Zhangkong leaned back in his chair, eyes closed. He was fast asleep. As he stared absent-mindedly out the window, Tang Wuling recalled the warnings received from his other teacher before his departure. Wuling, I wish you success on your trip to Shrek Academy. However, you cannot neglect your blacksmithing practice. You must forge daily. In these past 3 years, you have made startling progress even by my standards. I'm certain that once you gain your 3rd ring, spirit refinement will naturally follow. It was clear how much Mu Chen, a saint blacksmith, approved of Tang Wuling for him to speak such praise. After recovering from his injuries 3 years before, Tang Wuling swiftly became able to first grade 1000 refine, and started to do so for any metal he could get his hands on. He had completed countless first grade 1000 refining tasks. Spirit refinement would usually be attempted once the blacksmith reached a 30% success rate for first grade 1000 refining. In fact, some blacksmiths would even attempt it while only having a 10% success rate for first grade 1000 refining. Meanwhile, Tang Wuling had reached a guaranteed success rate. In comparison, Mu Chen only had a 50% success rate when he first attempted spirit refinement. While Tang Wuling's situation stemmed from his low cultivation, with his immense talent for forging, he quickly honed his skills to such a level that he could instead focus on cultivating. Yet his discipline never wavered as he continued to forge diligently while also requesting guidance from Mu Chen on every single detail about first grade 1000 refining. His 1000 refinements were honed beyond perfection now. During the past 3 years, he had engraved into his heart every quirk and property of a myriad of metals. Even Mu Chen found such a standard too harsh to impose on anyone. He was hard-pressed to find even the slightest fault in this gifted disciple of his. Mu Chen did not dissuade Tang Wuling from leaving for Shrek City to take the Shrek entrance exam. If he managed to pass, not only would he grow into a powerful soul master in the future, he would also become a battle armor master. Soul power and blacksmithing complemented one another. Mu Chen sincerely hoped for his disciple to reach the greatest heights possible. Yes, teacher, Tang Wuling promised respectfully. Mu Chen said, if you pass the Shrek exam, give me a call and I'll make arrangements for your blacksmithing studies. Understood. Tang Wuling's tone grew even more respectful. Without Mu Chen's careful guidance, Tang Wuling would never have been able to obtain all the metals he had forged from the market. Mu Chen had provided him with many rare metals produced in small quantities. Only master craftsmen, ranked blacksmiths and above had access to them for the sake of spirit refinement. Despite that, Mu Chen had provided him with countless such metals and taught him all of their characteristics one by one. Only this way could Tang Wuling manage to achieve a 100% success rate for first grade 1000 refining. Tang Wuling was aware of that and tried to return the favor as he could. He always forged together with Mu Zai and led her along with his own rhythm, helping her skills to progress by leaps and bounds in the last 3 years. She was 17 years old now and a 4th-ranked blacksmith. To the public, she was the #1 blacksmithing genius of East City. Mu Chen rubbed Tang Wuling's head. Be safe. Even if you don't pass the entrance exam, you can just come back and I'll think of some way to get you into a good academy. Thank you, teacher. Tang Wuling hugged Mu Chen with teary eyes. If he passed the exam, then who knows when the next time he returned would be. The thought of parting with Mu Chen was heart-wrenching. Mu Chen chuckled. Foolish child, what are you crying for? With today's soul technology, can't you just visit whenever you want? All right, go say goodbye to your senior disciple sister now. She's been depressed ever since she found out you were leaving. Mu Zai hadn't even come to the Blacksmiths Association in the past few days. She began ignoring him when he told her he was leaving to take the Shrek entrance exam. She rejected all his calls, and he was unable to enter the girls' dormitory. Once he was back at the academy, Tang Wuling dialed a number. Big Sister Xin, is my senior disciple sister there? Tang Wuling asked. She's here. Come over, Ouyang Zixin replied. Chapter 243, The Boy and the Man. After jogging together for the last 3 years, Tang Wuling and Ouyang Zixin had become good friends. She was now in the advanced department, and though not as talented as Mu Zai, after graduating she'd get into a higher level school without a cinch. According to Mu Zai, Ouyang Zixin was a gifted mega designer and prime new blood that many advanced academies were hoping to scout. Lacking the nerve to walk through the front door of the girls' dormitory, Tang Wuling snuck in through the back. With no one in sight, he scaled the wall with his blue silver brass to a 3rd-floor window. The window was wide open, ready for Tang Wuling to slide into. It led to a washroom. Luckily, it was seldom occupied throughout the day. Ouyang Zixin was waiting for him. Seeing Tang Wuling land with the grace of a cat, she couldn't help but laugh. Oh you. You're getting better and better at this. Don't go philandering too much when you grow up. Tang Wuling blushed to the roots of his hair and rushed his words. Big Sister Xin, don't tease me like that. How is my senior disciple sister? Ouyang Zixin said. She's been tiger-faced the last few days. She's so glum. Speaking of which, you're leaving so suddenly. I never expected that boy back then would take the Shrek entrance exam so soon. When they had first met, Tang Wuling had been no more than a boy. But now, they were the same height. Shrek Academy was the land of dreams for all soul masters. She knew she didn't have a chance, but when she saw the little brother she jogged with every day prepare to take the entrance exam, frustration plagued her heart. If he was accepted, then the gap between them would widen. Tang Wuling smiled. The apples of his cheeks dyed a delicious pink. It's not certain if I'll pass yet. If I don't, I'll just come back here. A smile tugged at the corner of Ouyang Zixin's mouth. I believe in you, and so does your senior disciple sister. Why else would she be so depressed? Tang Wuling was stunned. He had never considered this. Let's go. I'll bring you over. Ouyang Zixin retrieved the coat from the side and placed it over his body. Tang Wuling blushed at their proximity when she put it over him, her fragrance making him redder. To the general student population, Class 0 had long since faded into the backdrop, with sightings of its students as rare as that of seeing a unicorn. However, that didn't stop the two's early morning routine. Perhaps what she had said back then was true. Inside every man's heart was a pretty senior sister. Ever since they met, Tang Wuling looked forward to seeing her. She was both beautiful and gentle, always looking after him like a big sister. However, the two rarely shared a meal. If there was one thing she couldn't handle, it would be Tang Wuling's bottomless pit of a stomach. Because his return was uncertain, he had come to bid Mu Zai and Ouyang Zixin farewell on the eve of his departure. Big Sister Xin, are you still going to jog every day? Tang Wuling asked as he adjusted the hat. Ouyang Zixin was taken aback, blushes fluttering as her eyes widened just a tad. I will. I'll have no choice but to jog all alone. After a moment of silence, Tang Wuling resolved himself. Big Sister Xin, I like you. A pause. She was taken off guard by his sudden confession, but a sweet smile soon blossomed on her lips. You foolish boy, Big Sis likes you too. Tang Wuling didn't explain himself. He knew that his like and hers were different, but try as he might, he didn't know how. Once they arrived at the door, she dabbed her finger toward it, whispering into his ear, go in. She's inside. Don't tell her I was the one who brought you here. I'm going to leave now. Amen. Thank you, Big Sister Xin. Tang Wuling pushed open the door and entered. As Ouyang Zixin watched it close, emotions warred within her like a storm, trembling, mystifying. She did like Tang Wuling. He was cute, handsome, and talented. Who wouldn't have a soft spot for him? Although Tang Wuling never bragged to her, the fact that he was in Class 0 spoke for itself. She had heard from Xu Xiaoyu how amazing Class 0 was and how Tang Wuling, sweet little Tang Wuling, was actually the team captain. It's a pity he's so young. I can't like a boy that much younger than me. Girls matured earlier than boys. There was no way she didn't understand the meaning in Tang Wuling's confession. Even so, she could only pretend to be ignorant. If not, it might affect their friendship. You'll definitely find a girl suitable for you in the future. If only I was 4 or 5 years younger, then maybe I would have snatched you up. I wish you the best on your path. Without saying goodbye, Ouyang Zixin turned around and left, pretending the glistening tears rolling down her delicate cheeks were just a figment of a dream. Inside of the room, Mu Zai stood by the window, peering through the clear glass with her hands in her pockets. She was tall for a girl. In fact, even if Tang Wuling had a growth spurt now, he probably wouldn't be able to beat her. Zixin, Mu Zai asked deadpan. Tang Wuling stopped in place, calling out in a soft tone, senior disciple sister. Mu Zai spun around. She was stunned upon seeing him, but schooled her features into a mask of indifference. What are you doing here? Aren't you going to Shrek Academy? Shouldn't you be preparing? How did you even sneak into the girls' dormitory? Just go. It would be bad if you're discovered. I don't want to see you either, Muzai said coldly. Tang Wuling forced a smile, though it might be more accurate to call it a grimace. Senior disciple sister, I'm really leaving. I'm here to say goodbye. You can be assured that I will never forget my blacksmith roots. If I don't pass, then I'll return. And even if I do make it, I won't slack on blacksmithing. I'll come visit you and teach her whenever I can. Muzai didn't interrupt him again. Instead, she swallowed him with her stare, as filled and trembling with unknown emotions. Tang Wuling continued speaking under her gaze. Senior disciple sister, thank you for looking after me these last few years. I'll take my leave now then. He bowed to her before turning around to leave her room, footsteps trailing behind him. After closing the door gently, he was surprised to find that the hallway was empty. Ouyang Zishin was already gone. He let out a breath of relief. Senior disciple sister's gaze is so heavy. When his presence no longer lingered, Muzai's cold gaze thawed, turning into tears. That brat. He's really leaving. Since the very beginning, Tang Wuling had been a boy in Ouyang Zishin's mind, but for Muzai, it was different. To her, he was a young man. This change in perception transpired 3 years ago when Tang Wuling led her along with his forging rhythm during the Spicy Alliance tournament. It was only after that experience did her talents blossom, elevating her to the level of a first-rate genius. It hadn't left a deep impression on her at the start, yet as time went on and she mulled over her thoughts, she felt as if she had been protected and blessed by him. Despite being so much older than him, she felt at ease in his presence. Since then, it was as if the shackles chaining her back were broken. Muzai made quick progress in her forging with Tang Wuling. She was now a 4th-ranked blacksmith. She was capable of first-grade thousand refining. According to Yu Chen's original estimates, such progress should have taken her 5 years. Ever since she was small, Yu Chen had hammered into her head the shape of humility. She was talented, but there were always those more brilliant than her. However, as she honed her craft together with Tang Wuling, her father began giving her more guidance. He gave me all of this, but now he's leaving. He's leaving for Shrek City. The day she found out, she approached her father in tears, begging him to make Tang Wuling stay. Yu Chen answered her, Tang Wuling doesn't belong in this small pond. His future is among the sea of stars. Chapter 244, Departure. Muzai didn't know why she was so brokenhearted as she wept through the night. Only in the morning did the truth sink in. She couldn't let him go and wished to stay by his side. However, in the end, he was still leaving. Even if she was younger than Ouyang Zishin, there was no hiding her age. She was also 18 years old. From their 4-year age gap, they were destined to walk 2 different paths. When she entered an advanced academy, he would still be working through his intermediate academy studies. He was more gifted than her. His future is boundless as the ever-expanding universe. Perhaps, she must resign herself to traveling on a path parallel to his, so close but never intersecting. Her emotions were in turmoil as memories of their last 3 years together flashed through her mind. Fate would not change for a single person's desires, and his departure was inevitable. Wuling, what's on your mind? What are you daydreaming about? She nudged Tang Wuling, a quirk to his brow. Tang Wuling snapped out of his stupor and smiled. It's nothing. I'm just going to miss East City. With that, Shishi's jaws dropped. Aren't you arrogant? Tang Wuling burst into laughter. How so? Shishi looked like he swallowed a lemon. Didn't you just imply that we'll definitely pass? If that's not what you meant, then why would you miss East City? Tang Wuling pursed his lips, the dip to his brow becoming utterly significant. You're overthinking it. Although he dismissed his friend's accusations, in reality, buried within the deepest, softest crooks of his heart, he did feel this way. It would be a long time before he next returned to East City. There were tons of things he needed to do in Shrek City, such as searching for traces of his parents. Before his departure, he had met with Mang Tian once. Mang Tian had been convinced that his parents had left for a major city. Since Shrek City was the biggest city on the continent, it was likely they were there. He had received a message from his parents after their retreat, stating he would have the qualifications to search for them once he became a 5th-ranked blacksmith. Yet, in the 3 years since he had left Douluo City, he had not received a single call from them. Tang Wuling couldn't bear to think of his parents. Every time he awoke from meditation, his mind would wander in that direction and daggers stabbed his heart. Mum, Dad, where are you? He had matured a lot in this string of lonesome years. His resolve has sharpened like a knife. Mang Tian had said nothing, but it was evident something had transpired. No news was good news, until it wasn't. If his parents were fine, then there was no reason not to give him a call. At the very least, they should have been able to get in touch with Mang Tian. Tang Wuling did not strive so hard in cultivating solely for the sake of his dream of becoming a battle armor master. No, he desired the power necessary to find his parents and protect them. In his spare time, he had visited his home before. However, it had become an empty husk of what he remembered. There was nothing there, no personal items of his parents, nothing to suggest it hadn't been abandoned and tossed aside like rubbish, and the 4 bare walls felt as if they were closing in on him. He had visited again, though. This time it was a little more than a year ago, and he discovered something interesting. A double-layered wall hid in his parents' room. Within was a peculiar-looking badge with an even more peculiar symbol, and Tang Wuling couldn't for the life of him figure out what it was. He had recognized the significance of the badge immediately, with it being the sole clue to the puzzle of his parents' whereabouts. He safeguarded it in his storage ring. As the soul train sped along, the carriage became bathed in hushed whispers until just the squeaking of the wheels could be heard. For the young students of Class 0, the second-class seats were slightly cramped, but it gave them a sense of adventure. Outside the window, the landscape flitted by. The sound of breathing within the carriage steadied as passengers fell asleep one by one. Tang Wuling took a deep breath, exhaled. Took a deep breath again. A journey is traveled step by step and rice is eaten by the spoonful. I just need to continue working toward my goal. On this trip to Shrek City, the first thing on the itinerary was to find 1,000-year azure veined vine. He had the other 3 spirit items prepared and the dust gold red claw bear's soul bone had strengthened his body. He was ready to break the second seal now. Once he accomplished this, his strength would soar to new heights. His chance of passing Shrek's entrance exam would skyrocket. According to Wu Zhangkong's scheduling, they would arrive 1 week early, giving Tang Wuling just enough time to find the 1,000-year azure veined vine, break the seal, and take the Shrek exam. His expectations for the second seal surprise continued to grow as the time approached. Compared to Heaven Dou City, Shrek City was slightly closer to East City. The train slowed when it neared their destination. Then, an announcement sounded. Dear guests and travelers, we have arrived at the greatest city on the Douluo continent, Shrek City. Shrek City's roots extend tens of thousands of years and is a cultural hub. The legendary Shrek Academy was founded here, as well as the Spirit Pagoda headquarters. As the #1 city in the Federation, Shrek City boasts immense economic and political influence. Everyone, please take a look out the left window. The tower in the distance is the headquarters of the Spirit Pagoda. The 4 students of Class 0 flipped over to take a peek. Sure enough, a majestic tower pierced the heavens. Because it was so far away, only the upper middle portion was visible. All 8 sides sparkled with silver splendor, slowly tapering into the clouds, the peak unseen. The Spirit Pagoda's headquarters was the tallest building in the continent. Everyone, including Tang Wuling, knew this. In fact, the Federation had rules forbidding buildings with greater height as a show of respect. If the Tang sect was the most mysterious organization, and Shrek Academy the most illustrious, then the most powerful was undoubtedly the Spirit Pagoda. With their artificial spirit soul technology, the Spirit Pagoda was able to gather a horde of researchers, powerful soul masters, and amass riches on par with that of a nation. Its influence was undeniable in the Federation. In the Federation's parliament, 7 of the 108 seats were taken by the Spirit Pagoda. This didn't even account for parliamentary members under their influence. Shrek City truly transcended the realm of the ordinary. An interesting array of buildings surrounded the tower. Both ancient and modern buildings stood side by side, an odd sight. It was different from Heaven Dou City's air of antiquity and East City's fresh metal scent. Shrek City felt like a vast melting pot. Its boundaries extended beyond what the eye could see. After entering the city, the train sped along for another hour before cruising to a stop. In his entire life, Tang Wuling had never laid eyes on a larger train station than this. It was at least 5 times larger than those of Heaven Dou City and East City. An enormous dome roof hovered above them, marked by simplistic architecture. Sculptures were scattered across the station for travelers to marvel. Teacher Wu, where are we going first? Straight to Shrek Academy. She asked eagerly. Even if he hailed from a wealthy family, it didn't mean a thing. He couldn't control his excitement after stepping foot in this city of legends. Chapter 245, The Legendary Shrek City. Though Wu Zhangkong wore his usual mask of iciness, his eyes seemed to flicker with conflicted emotions. Let's find an inn first. The word luxury didn't exist in the dictionary of the inn that Wu Zhangkong chose, simply finding one that was near the station and booked 3 rooms. The inn gave off an antique feel with its simple architecture and modelled exterior of stone and wood, and its interior was neat and tidy, though their amenities were plain. Each room had 1 bed, 2 bedside cabinets, a wardrobe, a desk, and a chair. Only 2 people could fit in the washroom at a time, and that was all. It had 4 white walls and a window with a view of the train station. Wu Zhangkong had a room to himself while the students were split by gender into 2 other rooms. Wu Zhangkong had wanted to get a 3-person room, but this inn only had 2-person rooms. Otherwise, they would have only needed 2 rooms. So comfortable. She pounced on the bed the instant they entered the room, and spread his limbs. Tang Wuling, on the other hand, went to the window to take in their new environment. Wuling, why do you think Teacher Wu is so stingy with the rooms? He should have a good salary from the academy, and he's even a battle armor master. You should have seen how awesome it was. He's got to be rich since he made his battle armor. Tang Wuling laughed. Teacher Wu just doesn't care about such mundane things. Now you should be a bit more modest. We're not here to have fun. She said, fine. I'm going to nap first then. The train was so cramped I couldn't even stretch my legs. Although trains were convenient, second-class seats were by no means comfortable. Shi's breathing soon steadied. Tang Wuling took a bath and, after putting on some clean clothes, he went to Wu Zhangkong's room and pressed the doorbell. When Wu Zhangkong opened the door and saw him, he let him in silently. Teacher Wu, can we go now? Tang Wuling asked. Wu Zhangkong glanced at the sky. Don't be anxious. Auctions are held in the evening, so we still have plenty of time and Shrek City's auction has quite a selection. I'm sure we'll be able to find it. You need to be patient. Okay. Tang Wuling took a deep breath in and calmed himself. His nerves really were a bit jittery. He had never thought himself talented. His martial soul was the trashy blue silver brass, and though his 2 soul rings were at the 1,000-year level, they were still nearly 1,000-year blue silver brass soul rings. As for his golden dragon claw, while it was powerful, it wasn't sustainable. He was confident in his combative skills and would only place himself below Douluo, but this was Shrek Academy. If he wanted to pass the exam, he had to take it up a notch. Wu Zhangkong said, Wuling, let me ask you again. Are you sure your strength will increase once you have all 4 spirit items? If you're not absolutely certain, then I recommend that you not act hastily. The slightest mistake could negatively affect your future. Teacher Wu, I'm certain. Tang Wuling said without the slightest hesitation. My martial soul will evolve positively and it will definitely be a success. Despite being unable to tell Wu Zhangkong about the golden dragon king seals, Tang Wuling was certain that breaking the 2nd seal and absorbing its power would bring great rewards for him. Wu Zhangkong nodded. I won't say anything else then. It's almost night. We'll set off in a bit. Thank you, Teacher Wu. Tang Wuling returned to his room and began to meditate. The sun soon sunk below the horizon, twilight eating away at the sky. They ate dinner at the inn. Although the place was small, perhaps because it was an inn in Shrek City, its food was unexpectedly delicious. Tang Wuling's mind was clearly wandering even during dinner, only eating half as much as usual. Still, he ate more than everyone else combined. Go rest and meditate in your rooms. If you want to go out, stay within the area and always carry your soul communicators on you. Wu Zhangkong warned Shi, Douluo, and Xu Xiaoan. Xu Xiaoan said, Teacher Wu, where are you and Captain going then? She had become accustomed to calling Tang Wuling Captain now, rarely calling him by name. There are some matters we need to take care of. We'll be back later. Wu Zhangkong had never bothered to explain his plans to anyone. He quickly left with Tang Wuling after speaking. Before following Wu Zhangkong out, Tang Wuling signaled to his friends that there was no problem. Wu Zhangkong was clearly familiar with Shrek City but, unlike their time in Heaven Dou City, they hailed a taxi instead of walking. Soul taxis were comfortable, but more expensive than public transport. It was the first time Tang Wuling witnessed Wu Zhangkong opt for such a costly method of transportation. But he soon realized the reason. Shrek City was just too gigantic. The taxi was faster than a bus, yet it still took them 40 minutes to arrive at their destination. Wu Zhangkong led him into a pointed building. A staff member welcomed them once they were inside. Excuse me, may I ask if you 2 are participating in the auction? Could you please take out your invitation letter? Wu Zhangkong retrieved something out of his pocket and flashed it. The staff member instantly acted more respectfully. So it was our esteemed guests that have arrived. Please come this way. The staff member no longer pestered them for an invitation letter and led the 2 inside. Tang Wuling finally understood what true luxury was. Past the door was a hall made of white wood, golden patterns swirling across them like elegant flowers, while the floor was lined with a scarlet rug that had golden embroidery running down its length. Crystal lamps lining the walls sparkled on the walls, their shimmering light attracting the eyes of the guests. An unseen pressure weighed down upon Tang Wuling as he walked down this magnificent hall. He sent Wu Zhangkong furtive glances, but was only met with a calm expression no different than when they were at the academy. The 2 were brought to an opulent room and someone delivered drinks. A moment later, a middle-aged woman walked in. Honored guests, welcome. I am Ling, an auctioneer for the Yaluo auction. May I ask if there is anything I can help you with? She gave a slight bow to Wu Zhangkong and Tang Wuling. Bring me your catalogue, Wu Zhangkong said. Ling smiled. She walked over to Wu Zhangkong's side and crouched. With a flash of her golden bracelet, a small soul screen appeared in her hand. After a few taps on the screen, a list of items appeared. May I ask what type of items you are looking for? Her smile never left her lips as she furtively glanced at Wu Zhangkong's stern face from time to time. Together, Wu Zhangkong and Tang Wuling were a pair of peerless lady killers. Of course, she was more attracted to the mature Wu Zhangkong and, in consideration of his status, she acted friendlier than normal to him. She valued both looks and status. If she left a good impression on him, then perhaps she could advance their relationship another step. A pleasant fragrance lingered on Lin. It wasn't perfume, lest she offend anyone. Her gentle smile lacked any pretense, creating a sense of familiarity. Unfortunately, neither her complexion, figure, nor smile could thaw Wu Zhangkong's icy heart. Wu Zhangkong said, spirit items, yes. Ling quickly navigated to them. Do you have a specific item in mind? I can help you search for it. Ling sighed in her heart. He's not even sparing me a glance. Am I not even enough to enter his eyes? 1,000 as your veined vine. Wu Zhangkong said. Please wait a moment. Ling swiftly inputted the name and the listings changed. There were high-grade, mid-grade, and low-grade 1,000 as your veined vines, each with a different price. The starting auction price and estimated sale price were listed beside each one. When will it be put on auction? Wu Zhangkong asked. Tang Wuling's eyes sparkled. Yes. They have it. As expected of Shrek City, Chapter 246, The Surprising Auction. The next time an azure veined vine will be auctioned is in 3 days, with the bid starting at 8 in the evening. I believe there are 3 sets available. Ling said, a smile so sweet it could cause diabetes. Wu Zhangkong frowned. If I want to buy high-grade vine immediately, how would I do so? It had been years since he last visited this auction, and rarely did he visit any auction in general. Ling hesitated for a moment, biting back her words as she organized her thoughts. According to our rules, we're not allowed to sell items directly, but I can make an exception for someone as honorable as you. An instant purchase will cost 20% more than the estimated sales price. We can offer an accurate quote once you've considered it. Wu Zhangkong turned to face Tang Wuling. How about it? An extra 20%. That's a lot of money. Tang Wuling's heart hurt at the mere thought of it. The listed price for a high-grade vine was 5 million federal coins. With 20% added on, he'd be shelling out 6 million. Yes, he saved up a small fortune over the years, but that had been earned with his sweat and blood. Teacher Wu, isn't the auction in just 3 days? Tang Wuling answered finally, though not without some hesitation. Their eyes met, teacher and student communicating in silence before the former nodded. Fine. Give us 2 auction tickets. We'll come bid for the vine in 3 days. All right. Please wait a moment. I will go handle this. Ruoling agreed with a smile before leaving. In the brief period she had been in contact with Wu Zhangkong, she understood that he was not one to offend. She was less than a speck in his eyes. After obtaining tickets to the auction, Wu Zhangkong left for the inn with Tang Wuling in tow. Everything had been left to Tang Wuling to decide without Wu Zhangkong making a single remark or suggestion. In truth, Tang Wuling had been nervous. Not only was the Shrek exam in a week, but he had to wait 3 days before he could lay hands on the azure veined vine. That left him with 4 days to break the seal. Luckily, his body was stronger than it had been during the first unsealing. As such, he should just make it. His nerves settled at this epiphany, relief swallowing him whole. Tang Wuling cultivated in his room until the day of the auction. She followed suit, his friend's diligence rubbing off on him, even though he knew deep down that sharpening the spear at the last minute was pointless. 3 days later, Tang Wuling and Wu Zhangkong returned to the auction house. They were led immediately to the VIP seats. Only 2 types of people could be found here, those with money and those with strength. Wu Zhangkong belonged to the latter. The auction beat East Sea cities in grandness by a long shot. Every single item auctioned was a rarity and the mood was soon set. The 11th item to be auctioned is a high-grade 1,000-year azure veined vine. The starting price is 3 million. The minimum bid increase is 100,000. Let the bidding begin. It was finally time. Tang Wuling clenched his fists without realizing. He stared at the item like a desert-bound man would look at water. Nonchalantly, Wu Zhangkong slipped the number plate into Tang Wuling's hands, as if the bidding had nothing to do with him. He was generous when advising Tang Wuling on everything related to cultivation, but was a mute when it came to money matters. This spurred Tang Wuling to learn and adapt fast, to become independent, lest he be taken advantage of. 3 million, Tang Wuling said as he raised his number plate. 3,100,000. A person followed quickly, because of the lack of side effects and its ability to increase one's constitution while strengthening the physique. The azure veined vine was expensive, tremendously so. In fact, for large clans, it was seen as a necessity, used in rearing the younger generation. Thus, the demand for it was always high. 3,500,000, 3,800,000. The price kept increasing. The hand in which Tang Wuling held the number plate grew sticky with sweat. At the current bidding rate, the price would soon exceed 5 million. Regret crept into his heart. If he had known this would be the outcome, he would have paid 6 million up front. For every item on the program, the sales price listed was the minimum amount of money the auction house needed in order to break even. Tang Wuling had seldom attended auctions in his life. Therefore, he didn't know this important fact. If the treasure wasn't popular, then the final price would usually hover around the estimated sales price. Items in high demand, however, often exceeded the estimated value by far. In reality, the price Ruoling had given Wu Zhangkong was heavily discounted in consideration of his status. There was rarely enough 1,000-year azure veined vines to go around, and this fact was reflected in its price. It was Tang Wuling's ignorance that bit him in the back. Wu Zhangkong had known, yet chose not to warn his student. In his mind, Tang Wuling had to experience this bitterness himself so that the lesson would be carved into his heart. 5,400,000. Tang Wuling was on the verge of tears, almost crumpling into himself as he raised his number plate. 5,700,000. Another person shouted out. Tang Wuling didn't have a single moment to spare in regret. Although he was stingy, breaking the seal was more important. The chances of success were the highest with a high-grade vine. There was only one being auctioned today. Even if he threw out the 6 million right now, he wouldn't be able to buy a second one. His sole option was to fight tooth and nail for it. 6,200,000. Tang Wuling's face was morphed into an unsightly expression as the price reached the 6 million mark. I was stupid. Why didn't I just buy it back then? I could have broken through 3 days earlier and saved some money. 6,300,000. He had no choice but to continue. 6,500,000. 6,800,000. 7,300,000. Tang Wuling gnashed his teeth as his number plate shut up once more. Finally, the audience was quiet. A pin drop could be heard. 7,300,000 going once. 7,300,000 going twice. 7,300,000 going 3 times. And sold. Tang Wuling's entire body went limp in his seat the moment gavel sounded. 1,300,000. I paid an extra 1,300,000. Wu Zhangkong looked him in the eye and said, I showed them my identification as a battle armor master that day. Popular items usually exceed the estimated sales price. The price you want it for today is about normal. Do you understand now? Tang Wuling forced out a smile. I understand, but the price is still painful. Let's go. Wu Zhangkong didn't comfort Tang Wuling. This had been Tang Wuling's own choice. Thus, he must live with it himself. It was useless to blame others. He didn't tell Tang Wuling this explicitly, and instead chose to teach him this lesson through his actions. Tang Wuling trembled with remorse as he paid the bill. He had earned about 14 million federal coins after 3 years of hard work. The vine costed half of his entire savings. If it wasn't for his high chance to succeed at spirit refinement, which would save him some material costs, he would have coughed up blood on the spot. His remaining amount of savings was a pitiful shadow of its former self. Chapter 247. Ready. After storing a black box in his storage ring, Tang Wuling followed Wu Zhangkong into a taxi. Are you using those spirit items immediately once we return? Wu Zhangkong asked Tang Wuling. MN. Tang Wuling was still the picture of agitation. So much money. I wasted so much money. I'm practically burning money to break each seal. His only comfort was the increase in his strength per unsealing. If not for that, his money would have been wasted. 3 years of fulfilling blacksmithing orders culminated into just 4 spirit items. If not for the items, he would have been able to afford to learn the Ghost Shadow perplexing track. Apart from controlling Crane, capturing Dragon, he had also exchanged contribution points for some grappling techniques and the disorder splitting wind hammer technique. The former increased his close combat prowess while the latter improved his forging. Supposedly, the disorder splitting wind hammer technique was developed by a great clan from an era long gone. It was the clan of the Tang Sect's revered founder, Tang San, the Clear Sky clan. As time progressed, the Clear Sky clan faded into oblivion, leaving behind the disorder splitting wind hammer technique as its sole legacy. The technique could be used both in battle and for blacksmithing, perfect for Tang Wuling and his innate divine strength. However, the Tang Sect still had many arts he still wished to learn. A couple arts that he had been most taken with were the Ghost Shadow perplexing track and the soft bone 8 stage drop, the latter which was formidable in close combat. To put it harshly, Tang Wuling's body was inhuman. Not only did he possess overwhelming strength, he also had astonishing flexibility that enabled him to learn this technique. Alas, well, it woefully light at present and it would take him ages to accrue enough points for the soft bone 8 stage drop. Naturally, if he reached the spirit refinement realm, he would accomplish that goal much faster. Tang Wuling didn't like being stingy, but he had no other choice. Everything required money. He needed money to attempt spirit refining and break his seals. Not to mention, in order to become a battle armor master, just having enough cash stashed for a rainy day wasn't going to cut it. He needed mountains of gold, rivers of coins, and that was just the tip of the iceberg. No, if he didn't practice frugality now, he'd be in for a big surprise in the future. How long do you estimate it will take? Wu Zhangkong asked. The helpless shake of his student's head was his answer. Wu Zhangkong knitted his brows. If you don't even know how long it will take, then why did you choose to bid on the vine? The corner of Tang Wuling's mouth twitched. Teacher Wu, do you really have to rub salt in my wounds? I'm already so poor. I just wanted to save some money. Tang Wuling muttered. Wu Zhangkong didn't mind twisting the dagger as he continued. And how much did you save? Tang Wuling gritted his teeth. Nothing. Wu Zhangkong said coldly, if you rush to refine your bloodline once we return, you may miss the opportunity to take the Shrek exam. So, you have 2 choices, either hone your bloodline now and risk missing the test, or participate in the exam without the refinement. Think it over carefully. Tang Wuling frowned, brow creasing as he pondered this dilemma. I don't know how much time the unsealing will take. If it goes on for too long, I'll be in a pinch. But can I pass the exam as I am now? It's Shrek Academy after all. Teacher Wu, as I am currently, what do you think of my chances of passing the Shrek exam? Tang Wuling asked. Wu Zhangkong looked him over, eyes unblinking. It will be tough. Tough? Is that good or bad? Tang Wuling couldn't help but loosen his lips. How tough? Very tough. With that, Wu Zhangkong turned toward the window. Tang Wulian felt a massive headache coming on. Can't you say any more than that? Help me analyze this. Isn't this your responsibility as my teacher? However, he didn't dare speak out of turn. Instead, he endured through gritted teeth. If that's the case, I'd rather not risk it. Teacher Wu, if you knew all this before, then why didn't you tell me to buy the vine 3 days ago? Then I would have had enough time. To his outburst, Wu Zhangkong said, you've already grown up, and it's your own money. Any decision is solely your own responsibility. There was no denying it. The truth was severe, and Tang Wulian lamented in his heart. He had expected this sort of answer, but he had to ask. He had been defeated the moment he spoke. I choose to refine my bloodline. Tang Wulian sucked in a deep breath. His eyes twinkled with resolve. If passing the exam will be difficult without breaking the seal, then I have to risk it. At least my chances will be better. All right. Wu Zhangkong nodded and spoke no further. Once they returned to the inn, Wu Zhangkong spared no time pointing to his own room. You can make your breakthrough in my room. I'll guard you. He opened the door and entered. Taking in Wu Zhangkong's regal figure, Tang Wulian experienced an ember of warmth crackling within his heart. He understood Wu Zhangkong's reasons for his hands-off teaching approach. It was for his sake, so that he would grow independent. Taking another deep breath, Tang Wulian stepped foot into Wu Zhangkong's room. After directing his student to the bed, Wu Zhangkong pulled up a stool beside it and sat down. Tang Wulian placed the 4 spirit items on the desk. Is it time to start? It's been 3 years since the last one. And now it's time for the second. What will I obtain this time? His pulse raced at the thought, heart thumping so hard he could almost hear it. But I have to finish within 4 days. If I succeed, I'll be able to take the exam in peak condition. Time waited for no one, and Tang Wulian dared not parry. He sat on the bed cross-legged and closed his eyes. He summoned old Tang, bent on learning how to utilize these treasures. Ever since Tang Wulian was saved by old Tang from spirit energy overload, he hadn't heard a peep from him. Funnily enough, he only realized this just before he attempted calling for him. He'll appear, right? Anxiety squirmed in his heart, pulsing. If he hadn't already broken a seal before, he would have doubted its existence. Fortunately, old Tang did not leave him waiting. Within the depths of his consciousness, Tang Wulian once again found himself in that mystical spiritual world. You're ready. Old Tang's voice resounded throughout the space. Old Tang. Hearing that familiar voice, Tang Wulian felt the tension in his body melt away. In a burst of golden light, old Tang appeared before him. He looked the same as he did since their last meeting. Amen. Long time no see, little rascal. Old Tang's voice was marked with regret. You've done well improving your body all this time. It shouldn't be a problem for you to break the second seal. Have you prepared the 4 necessary spirit items? Tang Wulian's voice was thick with agony. I have them. He was still bitter over spending so much money. Old Tang said, then you're ready to start. The way to use the 4 spirit items is a bit different from last time. You will ingest the dragon scale fruit directly. However, you will crush the other 3 items into juice. Afterward, dilute the juice with some hot water for a bath, which you will soak and meditate in. You need to do this simultaneously. In other words, don't eat the dragon scale fruit until the bath is ready. Understood? Yes, I've got it. Although it was troublesome, it wasn't a difficult task. That's good then. You go prepare. You can start anytime once you're ready, but make sure your body is in top condition when you do. All right. The 4 spirit items were the dragon scale fruit, land dragon tendon, azure veined vine, and sea dragon marrow. In order to allay Wu Zhangkong's suspicions, Tang Wulian meditated first, coaxing his body to peak condition. Half an hour later, he rose. Teacher Wu, I'm beginning now, Tang Wulian said. Amen. Wu Zhangkong nodded as a response. He hadn't left his seat beside the bed and was ready to probe Tang Wulian's body with his senses. Tang Wulian's bloodline refinement evoked in him a sense of wonder. Tang Wulian said, I need to actually eat the dragon scale fruit, but I'm smashing the other 3 into juices. Could you help me with that? I also need to dilute the juices with hot water and use it for a bath to soak in. Wu Zhangkong stared at him, face as impassive as a blank mask. You're absorbing it by soaking, a quirk of the brow. Is there an issue? Wu Zhangkong shook his head. There's no problem with that, but it's not very efficient. You won't be able to absorb all of the nutrients that way. Tang Wulian said, that's fine. I'll trouble you to help then. After nodding, Wu Zhangkong stood up from his seat. He couldn't help but let a few words slip through. That's such a waste of money. At his teacher's uncharacteristic outburst, Tang Wulian's face twitched. Can you not talk about the money? The inn's amenities were nothing special. Yet, a bathtub was still provided. Tang Wulian adjusted the nozzle to let out a scorching stream of water, filling the tub halfway. Then, Wu Zhangkong brought in the 4 spirit items. Chapter 248, Breaking the Second Seal. Wu Zhangkong opened the case containing the 1,000-year azure veined vine and took it out. Like its name suggested, the vine was azure in color and only about as long as one's forearm. It sparkled like a crystal, and a dim glow emanated from its stalk as liquid circulated within. A sweet, refreshing fragrance capable of clearing a person's mind lingered on it. Wu Zhangkong pointed a finger at the vine and released a gentle stream of soul power that encapsulated it and carried it over the water. When he made a pinching gesture, an invisible force wrung the vine and broke it in half, letting its juices drip into the bathtub. The vine's juices quickly mixed with the water, imbuing the water and the steam that rose from it with an azure color. A heavy aroma hung in the air. With the last of the vine's juices extracted, only its husk was left. Wu Zhangkong's eyes flashed as his fingers swiftly moved, creating blades of mysterious heaven method soul power. They stabbed the vine countless times, instantly turning it into a fine powder as if it had suddenly exploded. The powder floated down into the water without a single particle wasted. Tang Wulian's eyes shimmered at the astonishing sight. Throughout the entire process, Wu Zhangkong hadn't used his martial soul. He accomplished this feat purely through his control over the mysterious heaven method. Now that's power. The land dragon tendon came after the azure veined vine. Of the 4 spirit items, the tendon was the least remarkable. All of its 2 meters of length was tan, and it was several times thicker than the vine. This 1,000-year land dragon tendon originally should have been 5 meters long, but it shrunk to this size after being processed. You would normally need to boil it for 3 days and 3 nights to soften it before being able to use it. Since you want to make a broth of it, there's only one unique method to do so. Wu Zhangkong moved his left foot 1 step to the left and bent his legs, maintaining half squat position. With a wave of his right hand, the tendon floated up just like the vine did. Then he brought his hands in front of him, palms facing each other, and a gust of wind came into existence between them. Controlling crane, capturing dragon. Tang Wulian instantly recognized this Tang sector. He's using controlling crane with his left hand and capturing dragon with his right. Eyes narrowed. Wu Zhangkong's hands began to move in circular, rhythmic motions. The fluctuations of his internal soul power grew stronger and stronger, while the tendon began to rapidly spin. As the tendon's revolutions grew faster and faster, a whirring sound could be heard. Aside from the slight oscillating movements of his hands, Wu Zhangkong's upper body was completely still. His soul power fluctuations, however, increased in strength as he fought to suppress the draft. Although Tang Wulian could sense the immense power gushing from Wu Zhangkong, it didn't affect him at all. Teacher Wu's control over his soul power is amazing. The tendon's tan coloring gradually turned red. Howling wind accompanied its high-speed rotations. The pressure from controlling crane, capturing dragon, the high-speed revolutions, and the air friction all merged together to tenderize the tendon. The tendon slowly began curling inward, eventually resembling a scarlet dumpling. Controlling crane, capturing dragon can be used like this. It was Tang Wulian's first time seeing it used in such a magical way. A quarter of an hour later, red liquid began dripping from the tendon. Each time a drop of the liquid hit the water, puffs of steam rose into the air. Tang Wulian could feel the temperature of the water rising. The scarlet tendon juice mixed with the water, making it murkier. Another quarter of an hour later, the entire tendon had been converted into juice and mixed with the water of the bathtub, making it dark green. It truly looked bizarre. A queer smell had replaced the pleasant fragrance. A hint of the vine's freshness was still there, but it was overpowered by a fishy odor. The 2 smells fought back and forth, the dominant smell changing from one moment to the next. Wu Zhangkong stood up and retrieved the 1,000-year sea dragon marrow. The marrow was easier to turn into juice. All he had to do was use his soul power to squeeze it like he did with the vine. In fact, he didn't even need to crush it with his finger swords. When the marrow mixed with the water, nothing really changed other than the steam taking on a pink hue. No matter how one looked at it, the water now seemed terrifying. Go in. Wu Zhangkong nodded at Tang Wuling in encouragement. It was Wu Zhangkong's first time seeing someone absorb spirit items like this, so he was curious to see how it turned out. Tang Wuling took a deep breath and forced any thoughts equating this bath with 3 years of hard-earned money out of his mind. He picked up the dragon scale fruit and took a bite of it. The dragon scale fruit didn't taste wonderful like its sparkling blue skin suggested. Its juices were extremely sour, and he nearly choked. It's 3 million. It's worth over 3 million. Tang Wuling shouted its price in his heart over and over, forcing himself to eat it bite by bite. In the end, he even ate its skin. With the dragon scale fruit now in his stomach, heat spread throughout his body. Tang Wuling didn't forget what he was supposed to be doing and quickly shed his clothes, dipping his toe into the tub's water. Hot. Perhaps due to the 1,000-year land dragon tendon, the water was much hotter than he anticipated, so much so that he nearly cried out. Stealing himself, Tang Wuling managed to put both of his legs into the scalding water. He was on the verge of tears, but he couldn't bear letting his money go to waste. Clear your mind and calm your breathing, Wu Zhangkong said. Tang Wuling's mind trembled as he hastily released a long breath and circulated his soul power. The dragon scale fruit quickly took effect. Warmth spread from his belly as he used the mysterious heaven method. Tang Wuling thought that the heat within his body would help him adapt to the scalding water, but it was the opposite. Instead of adapting, he grew more sensitive to the heat, causing his body to tremble uncontrollably. At that moment, old Tang's sullen voice resounded in Tang Wuling's mind. Soak your entire body in it. Leave only your head exposed. With no choice but to bite the bullet, Tang Wuling plunged the rest of his body into the water, immersing himself in the scalding heat. It took all his willpower to keep himself from jumping out. Endure it. Endure it. Eyes tightly shut, Tang Wuling willed himself to continue soaking in the water and endure the pain of being boiled alive. From Wu Zhangkong's perspective, Tang Wuling's body had instantly become scarlet the moment he entered the water. It was as if he were a cooked shrimp. Tang Wuling's body began to twitch. Wu Zhangkong's brows furrowed. Will he really be fine? This is the first time I've heard of a recipe like this. Just where did Wuling get from? Wu Zhangkong raised his hand, preparing to aid Tang Wuling by cooling him down with his martial soul. At that moment, however, a golden mark appeared faintly on Tang Wuling's forehead, shocking Wu Zhangkong. Even with his excellent eyesight, he could just barely make it out. The golden mark appeared to consist of 3 golden lines, but Wu Zhangkong couldn't identify it. Chapter 249, Dignity in the Future. It only took moments from when the golden mark first appeared for Tang Wuling's entire body to be covered in a network of golden streaks. It gave him an air of resplendence. Once the golden lines appeared, his breathing calmed down. He seemed to be adapting to the scorching pain. The golden lines pulsed intermittently, spreading a peculiar energy which enveloped his body. It wasn't soul power, but something far more special. Wu Zhangkong narrowed his eyes at the sight. He used only his senses to silently investigate. His blood essence is so powerful. It was inconceivable for someone's blood to course so vigorously. Golden scales emerged on Tang Wuling's right arm, stopping just shy of turning into the dragon claw. In contrast with their usual appearance, however, the current scales were far more brilliant and jagged. A golden radiance shone through them in a dazzling display. Tang Wuling's frame trembled gently when the water began to bubble, seemingly boiling him alive. The golden pattern covering his body became more distinct as it began emitting a rumbling noise. Streams of golden air left through his nose and mouth, with each breath serving to further refine his body. His bloodline really is getting refined. Wu Zhangkong nodded to himself. He could now be certain this endeavor would prove beneficial for Tang Wuling and that he could bear it. 3 days later. Zhangkong, why are you staying in a place like this? Why not pick a place closer to the academy? Shen Yi frowned as she inspected his ordinary room. Wu Zhangkong calmly replied, it's enough as long as I can rest here. What difference does it make if I stay somewhere else? Besides, I don't like how noisy it is near the academy. He had already contacted Shen Yi before departing for Shrek City. The Sky Sea Alliance had a little more than 100 quotas for Shrek's entrance exam each time, and it was only after racking his brains and making many compromises that President Uzen had been able to acquire 4 of them. Naturally, these 4 quotas were for the outer court exam. Considering their standing in the alliance, the East Sea Academy had no way of procuring any of the prized inner court exam slots. Shen Yi had been caught off guard by Wu Zhangkong's sudden call, but she rejoiced when she heard he wanted to bring his disciples to take the exam. Her joy sprang once from the news of his return, and twice at the thought of his promising disciples. They had left a deep impression on her 3 years earlier, during the Sky Sea Alliance tournament. Their captain had a keen awareness of the situation and was decisive enough to sacrifice himself for the sake of his teammate. In her eyes, Tang Wuling stood out among the others. Following closely, however, was Gu Yue. When Tang Wuling was gravely injured, she chose to give up some of her own life force to heal him. She had wanted to take Gu Yue for herself right then and there. Gu Yue's control over the elements was truly shocking. 3 years later, Wu Zhangkong was finally bringing those children to Shrek Academy. Shen Yi looked forward to seeing how much they had matured under his guidance. The exams are tomorrow. Are your students ready? Shen Yi changed the subject as she sat down in the chair. Wu Zhangkong's forehead wrinkled. I asked you to come because I have a favor to request of you. The others are ready, but I have one student who has entered deep meditation and still hasn't awakened. So, is there a way to delay the exam? Shen Yi went silent, her brows drawn together as she considered. I'm afraid it's impossible. You know how strict the academy's rules are. Besides, we have so many applicants of which only 100 will pass, and there are many rounds of examination. We can't change the exam time just for your students. It wouldn't do to make them all wait for one person's sake. It's a tough situation. Which student are you talking about? Wu Zhangkong said. The captain, Tang Wuling. Shen Yi's heart skipped at the sound of that name. She recalled the scene of him rushing forward in the face of a soul fusion skill, using his own body to shield his teammate. Deep meditation was a rare opportunity that brought many benefits for soul masters. If disturbed, a backlash would likely occur. Zhangkong, you know how hard it'd be. Virtually impossible. Don't you know how inflexible teachers are? Shen Yi said helplessly. Wu Zhangkong nodded. All right then. I'll have my other students take the exam first. Present in the room together with Wu Zhangkong and Shen Yi were Gu Yue, Xu Xiaoan, and Shi. Wu Zhangkong had already told them about Tang Wuling's state of deep meditation. Hearing that Tang Wuling couldn't take the exam, Shi immediately said, Teacher Wu, that's out of the question. Wuling has been looking forward to taking this exam for years, and this is our only chance. He would regret missing it for the rest of his life. Wu Zhangkong frowned. Even after 3 days of bathing in the medicinal water, Tang Wuling's bloodline refinement had yet to finish. Disturbing him was out of the question, so the most they could do was wait patiently. But time waited for no one. Xu Xiaoan said, Yeah, Teacher Wu, how can we accept Captain not participating? For Soul Masters, it was practically a once-in-a-lifetime chance to enter Shrek Academy. If Tang Wuling missed it, then regret would haunt him forever. Calm returned to Wu Zhangkong's expression. Shen Yi sighed and said, There's no point in thinking about it any further. Nothing can be done. Unless he wakes up before the exam starts, he'll have to miss it. I'm sorry I can't help you. Having been silent the entire time, Gu Yue suddenly walked to stand before Wu Zhangkong and Shen Yi. Hello, Teacher Shen. May I ask if it's possible to take the exam as a substitute? Is there a way for me to renounce my exam qualifications so Wuling can take the exam? He's stronger than I am, so he could surely pass the exam if I'm able to. Shen Yi was taken aback. This girl that she regarded so highly actually made such a daring proposition, leaving her unsure whether to laugh or cry. Little girl, you're overthinking it. Just what kind of place do you think Shrek Academy is? If normal academies don't allow for substitutions, why would Shrek? It's true that you're strong and have a high chance of being admitted, perhaps even into the inner court, but you shouldn't be so naive. Gu Yue shook her head. If Wuling can't go, I won't go either. If he can't join Shrek, I also refuse to join. Her voice was steady, and her eyes blazed with resolve. Shen Yi was astonished that Gu Yue possessed such deep devotion despite her young age. She had met many people like her in Shrek Academy. As long as they decided on something, they would never falter. In fact, Wu Zhangkong was also this type of person. Like teacher, like student. Zhangkong, your students are excellent. You shouldn't let one person hold them back, Shen Yi said. Dead silence permeated the air as the clock ticked on. Seconds felt like years until Wu Zhangkong finally raised a hand to pat Gu Yue's shoulder. Take your mind off of this issue. Just go back and rest. I will handle it. Gu Yue stared at him in shock. His words left no room for debate. They carried the same type of unwavering determination hers did. Thank you, teacher. Gu Yue left first. She wanted to speak out but held his words back when Wu Zhangkong raised her hand. After leaving the room, uncertainty flickered in Xu eyes. Xu Shaoan said quietly, "What did you want to say just now?" A moment of silence later, Xu asked, "Tell me, Shaoan, our friends or Shrek Academy, which do you consider more important?" Xu Shaoan laughed. "You don't need to ask me that. As far as I'm concerned, Captain is the most important. My chances of passing were low anyway." She chuckled and hung an arm around her shoulder. "Comrades truly think alike. If Wu Lin can't take the exam, then I won't either." As the words left his lips, his heart seemed to be relieved of a great burden and his entire being relaxed. Staring at the door, Wu Zhangkong's breathing grew rapid. "Let's go then." Shen Yi asked, "Where are we going?" Wu Zhangkong replied, "Back to the academy." A tremble ran down Shen Yi's spine. "You're going back to the academy? You?" Wu Zhangkong said indifferently, "The children all understand, so how could I not? If I can trade my dignity for their future, that's a small price to pay. I will go back with you and apologize." The bathtub's water had long since become clear, leaving behind only a golden mist to shroud Tang Wulin. Chapter 250, The Academy City. Shrek Academy, the #1 academy that was located in the #1 city of the continent, was a place that countless people yearned to enter. Shrek Academy's campus was vast, a small town unto itself. It actually used to be the original Shrek City until Spirit Ice Douluo Huo, the Spirit Pagoda's founder, proposed an expansion. Only then did the city grow much larger. Every 3 years, Shrek Academy would recruit new students, signaling a grand occasion for Soul Masters. Merely qualifying for the entrance exam of Shrek Academy was a point of pride for many young Soul Masters. The continent even had a saying, each and every Soul Master that qualified to take Shrek's entrance exam and failed would still be scouted by advanced academies. This saying was grounded in truth. People who qualified to take this exam were the cream of the crop. Despite being the elite of the elite, only a fraction of the examinees were admitted to Shrek Academy's outer court. Shrek Academy only accepted 200 outer court disciples every 3 years. Among the 200, 50 were set aside for those who failed to pass the inner court exam. Only 50 people were allowed to take the inner court exam at a time. Passing the exam was obviously the desired outcome, but failing to do so still allowed entrance to the outer court, as well as the chance to enter the inner court in the future. This was the exact reason why President Long Huanshan of the Spicy Academy treasured the 5 inner court quotas. It essentially guaranteed 5 students entrance to Shrek Academy. Those students would naturally be expelled if they didn't measure up to even the outer court standards. Shrek Academy's history had seen its fair share of such situations. Anyone who graduated from Shrek Academy's outer court would already be considered a person capable of standing at the summit of the continent. Great clans and organizations would spare no expense to invite such a person into their fold. The inner court, however, was a realm of prodigies. Graduates of the inner court rarely chose to leave Shrek Academy. Most would stay. In the world of academia, the inner court disciples of Shrek Academy were destined to become battle armor masters. This fact was undisputed. Every single battle armor master was an existence of strategic importance to the Federation. There were always a few students who chose to leave the inner court for some reason or another, of course. Any such student would instantly attract the attention of the world's superpowers. Since today was the eve of Shrek Academy's entrance exams, everyone in the city was filled to the brim with hopeful examinees, their teachers, and the heads of their families. The city was overrun with people. Merchants seized this opportunity to turn a profit by selling old exam questions and rules. Some sold spirit items while others sold soul devices. These masses of people worked in tandem, benefiting from one another. The Shrek Academy entrance exam had 3 requirements. First, examinees had to be sent by a major city. Second, examinees could be no more than 15 years of age. Third, the soul power of an examinee had to be ranked 25 at the very least. These were the basic requirements, but the most important requirement of all had been decreed 20,000 years ago. Shrek Academy did not accept ordinary people. On the contrary, they only accepted monsters. As a result, Shrek Academy has championed the moniker of Monster Academy since ancient times. Wu Zhangkong slowly approached Shrek Academy's western gate. His wore a solemn expression, but something else seemed to be lurking in the depths of his eyes. Upon seeing Shrek Academy carved into a signboard hanging from the city-turned-academy gates, he couldn't help but come to an abrupt stop. His heart stirred as he pursed his lips. Shen Yi walked over to stand beside him. "Go inside. Teacher has missed you all these years. You're both just too stubborn to make up. I was really happy when you agreed to come back. You know." Wu Zhangkong wordlessly lowered his head. He walked toward the gate, his pace brisk and faster than before. It was almost as if he were afraid of getting cold feet. 2 youths clad in dark green uniforms guarded the western gate of Shrek Academy, also known as Shrek in the city. The two saluted in respect when they saw Shen Yi. "Senior sister." "This is my friend," Shen Yi said. "Please grant him entry." As she spoke, she took out a hexagonal metal plate and handed it to them. One of the youths examined it for a moment, then nodded to Shen Yi and stepped aside. Shen Yi and Wu Zhangkong entered Shrek in the city. "I originally prepared this entry token for that female disciple of yours. I didn't think I'd end up using it for you." She hadn't expected Wu Zhangkong to return with her when she set out this morning. Wu Zhangkong remained silent. His mind was already wandering in a world of its own. Once they entered the inner city, it seemed as if they were in a completely different place. In contrast to the hustle and bustle of the outer city, here, silence reigned. Stores lined the sides of a wide street paved with black brick. The architecture of every store was ancient, and they were mostly made of wood. It was as if Wu Zhangkong and Shen Yi had been transported 10,000 years into the past. The architecture resembled that of Heaven Dou City, but the buildings weren't as closely concentrated. Vegetation grew through the gaps and alleys between the buildings of Heaven Dou City, instilling it with a sense of grace. All the stores were open, but few people wandered the streets. Wu Zhangkong quickened his pace, quickly heading into the city's core. Shen Yi walked at his side. Her eyes glazed over as she reminisced about years ago when she would shadow him on a stroll through the inner city. However, that time had long since passed. Everything was different now. The sunny youth who always wore a brilliant smile had become a man as cold as heavenly frost that wore white robes and carried a blue sword. Shen Yi didn't know how many years had gone by since she had last seen Wu Zhangkong smile. When his beloved passed away, his smile froze. Since then, he spent years in isolation at East City, refusing to return. Sometimes, Shen Yi felt as if Wu Zhangkong's spirit had already faded away and that he only continued living because of a promise to his beloved, a promise to preserve her name alongside his within his battle armor. Even after leaving Shrek Academy, Wu Zhangkong continued to demonstrate how outstanding he was. He was only 32 years old, yet he was a 7-ring soul sage. He could now work on crafting 3-word battle armor. Shen Yi was convinced that, even if it were several times more difficult, he would still be able to accomplish it because of his unyielding will. When she met his disciples and saw how carefully he guided them, Shen Yi had rejoiced. Wu Zhangkong finally had something important in his life again. Along with his beloved, 4 more people had made their way into his heart. Wu Zhangkong had returned to the academy for the sake of his disciples. After passing through several streets and finding himself in a familiar area, Wu Zhangkong came to a sudden halt. Shen Yi bumped into his broad back, yelping in surprise. "Why did you stop so suddenly?" She protested as she rubbed her nose. Wu Zhangkong's cold eyes thought a little as he remembered the junior sister that had always followed him around in the past. She always said the same exact thing. More than 10 years had passed in the blink of an eye. He was no longer the Wu Zhangkong from back then, and she was no longer the young lady with a sweet smile. They had grown up. They had matured. However, doing so came at a price, and he had definitely paid the most. "Where is teacher?" Wu Zhangkong asked. "Thanks so much for watching this video. Don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe. Also leave a comment down below with suggestions on what novels to read."